Hey, everybody. We had a question on one of the scriptures that we read, and I thought I would address it with you guys. The question was, let me see if I can bring it up here. So you read about cutting and tattooing the body. So what about the Christians that have tattoos and piercings? Does it affect our relationship with God? Great question. Uh, there's two ways to think about this question, I guess. Are you asking, I'm not a Christian, I haven't accepted Jesus, I've got tattoos, I've got cuttings on me, is that going to preclude or stop me from having a relationship with God? The answer is no. Hey, if God can redeem Paul, the sinner who was murdering his own followers, he can redeem you too. So cuttings, tattoos, if you have them, that's not going to stop you from being a Christian. Uh, Now that you're a Christian, if they bother you, well, there's not much you can do about it. They were permanent additions. That's what your parents warned you about when you were younger. You cover them up, deal with them, get them removed if you can. I don't know. That's, again, you'll have to decide. Other way to look at it, I'm a Christian, and now I'm going to get tattoos and piercings. Does that mess up the relationship that I have with Jesus? It's complicated for the answer. Now, let me pull up the verse that we were looking at. The verse they're specifically talking about is Leviticus 19, chapter 28. You should not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor tattoo any marks on you. I am the Lord. All right, so I'm trying to figure out if this applies to me as a Christian. Now, the first thing I did, I go into my software, my Bible study software, and I looked up tattoo. See how many times does it appear in my Bible. I'm using the New King James Version. And interestingly enough, the word tattoo shows up exactly one time in my New King James Version. That's this verse right here. That's the only place that says tattoo. Nowhere is it mentioned anywhere else in the Old Testament, never mentioned in the New Testament. So what does that tell me as a Christian? Well, it tells me that Jesus didn't address tattoos, the apostles didn't address tattoos. So to say that it's a commandment, then that's automatically a sin and it automatically disqualifies me. I can't say that because they never said anything about it. Doesn't mean they approved of it. Doesn't mean they disapproved of it. It means I have to do my own work on that. I've got to research things. I've got to use that filter that Jesus gave us of, okay, is this something that makes me look like I'm loving God and with all my heart, with all my soul, I'm putting him first? Is this showing that I'm loving other people and putting them above me and being a good servant to them? Okay, maybe it's not a sin, but is it good for me using Paul's logic? And I kind of arrive at my own conclusion of, hey, you know what? Whatever I do for the Lord. Whatever I don't do that for the Lord. So I'm going to have to put it into my own hierarchy here. Interestingly enough, if you look over here, this is the Hebrew word that's translated into tattoo in my New King James Version. And what's really interesting is this Hebrew word only appears one time in all of the Hebrew text. This verse right here. So is this a pronouncement forever? Well, this was a pronouncement to these Israelites that had come out of Egypt. It was a commandment for them. They used to be slaves. As slaves, they had earrings put in their ear to say, I'm a slave, and they probably had the name of their owner tattooed on them somewhere to say, I belong to this person. And maybe that person believed in a God, so he has the God tattooed on me somewhere. So they're talking about marks that are put on me to show ownership of me, basically by an Egyptian. And then they're talking about, if you look at the context of this verse, that they're going into Canaan where they have the same practices. So don't do these. That's what God's saying. Hey, I don't want you to mark that you're owned by anyone but me when you're going over here. And we saw that I highlighted these other ones. You shall not make any cuttings for your flesh for the dead. So the cuttings had to do with mourning rituals. And what's interesting is if you look in the Hebrew, this for the dead doesn't necessarily apply to the tattoos, but it might apply to the tattoos. So it might be applying, I'm getting tattooed for dead people, or I'm not getting tattooed for dead people. And if you actually look at the root word here, it might not mean tattoo at all. So this is not a verse that I would base my entire life on, especially as a Christian. I said I would look and say, okay, I'm a Christian. I want to get a tattoo. Why do I want to get a tattoo? Why am I cutting myself? I mean, is this somehow exalting God? Is this exalting other people? Then I guess it would be okay if you've made that decision. Me personally, I say, hey, you know what? Marking my flesh, if my flesh is supposed to be a temple, I probably shouldn't want to mark it, and that's why I don't have tattoos. Okay, but if you come to me and you have tattoos and you say I'm a Christian, okay, you know, that's your version of the of your faith versus my version of the faith. And like I said, if I look in the Old Testament, that's the only place I see tattoo. I don't see it anywhere in the New Testament, so that's kind of left up to me and you to decide for ourselves. Is it okay or is it not okay? If you decide it's not okay, then it's not okay. If you decide that it's okay and you can back it up by looking at some verses and saying, okay, you know what, I think it's all right, then it's all right. So there's my non-answer answer for the question. It depends. And a lot of our Christian faith is like that. I mean, there are some things that we all agree on. Tattooing is one of those things that that we don't all agree on. And the reason we don't all agree on it, because Jesus never said anything about it. It wasn't as important to Jesus as it is to us. So why do we make it any more important than that? And that's where I'm going to end this. So have a great day. God bless you. Goodbye.